Released in 1972, Machine Head is Deep Purple's sixth studio album and their most successful. It gave the world that riff and the band a place in rock history. Despite being 5 albums into their career before the recording of Machine Head, they never really felt they captured the essence of the band's sound in the studio. They always thought that the powerful live sound they were able to generate on stage never properly translated to the records. Drummer Ian Pace was happier with the sound they achieved for his drums on Fireball though, as they experimented with leaving the main studio space to record in a corridor. This inspired them to seek a non-traditional studio space in which to record the whole band for their next album. The location for the recording would be influenced by the trend at the time for UK bands looking to minimise their tax bills by recording abroad. Montreux Casino in Switzerland was the spot they chose after playing there the year before and befriending owner Claude Nobbs. Home to the famous Montreux Jazz Festival, the building featured a large arena and importantly was closed during the winter months, leaving it empty for the band to use. The final concert of the season was performed by Frank Zappa and the Mothers, which Deep Purple attended. However, during the show, a not-so-bright spark in the audience unleashed a bright spark in the form of a flare. This then led to a fire breaking out. Everyone dutifully evacuated, and fortunately no one perished. But the fire continued to burn, eventually getting completely out of control, despite the efforts of the fire brigade and owner Claude, who frantically tried, ultimately in vain, to contain the all-consuming flames. It would be this destructive turn of events that ultimately led to the band's career-defining song and give a vehicle for one of the most recognisable riffs ever created. With the Stones' mobile truck already in place to serve as the recording facility, the band decided to stay in Montreux and seek a new venue. The Pavilion, a nearby theatre, fit the bill, where they managed to at least get set up and begin jamming some ideas, one of which was the riff that would become Smoke on the Water. Playing free and loud, the band recorded a basic backing track around the riff, but with no theme or lyrics yet to appear. They managed this though by the skin of their teeth, as unbeknownst to them, the police had been called due to noise complaints, and the roadies were busy holding them off to ensure they were able to complete the take. This proved to be the only useful thing recorded at the Pavilion, before they had to leave and again find somewhere else. With noise a concern, they ventured to the outskirts of the town and the Grand Hotel. Closed to the public also, the hotel had some large rooms and enough space to accommodate them, but crucially they could play as loud and as much as they wanted. Despite the slightly austere surroundings of an empty hotel, not to mention the cold temperatures, the band managed to set up in such a way that they felt comfortable, although listening to playbacks became a little torturous. Ritchie Blackmore said, "We had the Rolling Stones mobile recording unit sitting outside in the snow, but to get there, we had to run the cables through 2 doors in the corridor into a room, then ran along the balcony for about 100 feet and came back in through another bedroom window. It then went through that room's bathroom and into another corridor, then all the way down a marble staircase to the reception area of the hotel, out the front door, across the courtyard and up the steps into the back of the mobile unit. I think that setup led to capturing some spontaneity, because once we got to the truck for a playback, even if we didn't think it was a perfect take, we'd go, yeah, that's good enough, because we just couldn't stand going back again." Martin Birch was at the helm in the truck and the man responsible for making sure they got everything down on tape, and to be the bad guy to make them traipse back up the stairs to do it all again if necessary. The Stones truck housed the Helios console that had EQ and compression built in. They also had some outboard gear including the Uri 1176 and Teletronics LA2A compressors. Ian Pace's drums were set up in a corridor, as you can see in this picture. It's a pretty tight space with the walls close on each side of the kit. It seems the plan was to capture a lot of punch from the kit, with a good few close mics. It wasn't massively common in those days to have many close mics. Led Zeppelin's John Bonham was one of the many who was very much against it, but you can see here that they are going for a spatial ambient sound with 2 Neumann U87s as stereo overheads, but also an AKG D19 on the snare, an AKG D20 on the kick drum, and Bayer M160s for the toms. The Neumann U87 was also used to record Ian Gillan's vocals. Blackmore was very much into Strats at this point, and his 2 main guitars for recording were his Black 68 and the recently purchased Sunburst 71. Apparently the newer one had a more airy attack, which he really liked. He played this Sunburst Strat until early 1973, then smashed it. He said that he played scallop frets since about 1971, so it's likely they were modified for the recording of the album. There was quite a bit of mystery on Ritchie Blackmore's amp setup for recording, with no pictures or first-hand account from the engineers. So there has been a lot of speculation over the years, with Ritchie himself adding to the mystery many times with different explanations. Rumours of a battery-powered Mike Matthews Freedom amp were even mentioned by Blackmore, although this was surely a joke. On stage, he was known for using a specially modified Marshall Major. This was far from stock though, with an extra gain stage added, taking it from 200 watts to a massive 280. Despite using this, he always had a soft spot for the Vox AC30, appreciating its unique cut-in tone. He said that he even had Marshall replace the electronics of one of their combos to include those of an AC30, apparently telling Blackmore that if he ever told anyone, they would flat out deny it. In the studio, there was no need for these shenanigans, as he later admitted using his AC30 and a more sedate 100-watt Marshall Super Lead for recording Machine Head. Another key part of his chain was a Hornsby Skews treble booster. This unit used a germanium transistor in its circuit to add overdrive boost to a signal, kicking the preamp with coloration. The amps fed a Marshall 4x12 cab, likely containing Celestion greenbacks as they were stock at this time. It's not clear what mic was used, but it was likely a Neumann U87 or 67 as a distance mic, with a dynamic mic on the cab. Roger Glover played his newly acquired Rickenbacker 4001 he bought whilst on tour in New York just before the sessions, although the bass nearly never made it back with him to the UK. After purchasing the bass at Manny's in New York, Roger sent it along with the road crew, as he decided to stay behind and spend a bit of time there with his girlfriend. Roger didn't declare that he bought the guitar in the US though, so Customs seized it and brought him along for questioning. It seemed trying to save the £25 tariff nearly ended up in a court case, although he did settle after paying a hefty fine, and the guitar in the end did make the sessions. The amplifier he used was the Ampeg SVT. John Lord wanted to get his organ to sound more like a guitar, so instead of plugging his Hammond into a Leslie, as would be the norm, he actually plugged it into a Marshall Major, developing a sound he called the Beast. You can hear this Marshall Major cranked on the brilliant space trucking. Recording moved along nicely as the band managed to write and record 6 songs, although they were still one short as they neared the end of their time at the hotel. Remembering the heavy riff-driven piece they recorded back at the Pavilion, the band set about making it into the song they needed to complete the record, drawing inspiration from the unusual train of events that they experienced. The lyrics tell the story of the fire and the sight of seeing the smoke billowing across Lake Geneva. Ian Gillan said, "We were sitting in this bar restaurant about a quarter of a mile from the casino, and it was blazing. The wind was coming down off the mountains and taking the smoke and flames across the lake. Smoke on the Water was the first song they started and the last song to be completed. With its unforgettable riff, it became their biggest song by far, helping Machine Head become their biggest album." It was recorded in about 3 weeks, with Blackmore saying, "Everything was natural and it worked. I wasn't as keen on Fireball, because we were just working too much. We had about a month off before Machine Head, which allowed me to get my head together and write some stuff." It seems Smoke on the Water was down the pecking order in terms of the band's favourites, as they thought Never Before was going to be their big hit. This was followed by Lazy and Highway Star, which is another great song and fantastic lyric from Ian Gillan. In fact, Roger Glover has said that Highway Star is the ultimate Deep Purple song. Released on the 30th of March 1972, it went to number 1 in the UK and number 7 in the US. It's still regarded as one of the most influential hard rock albums of all time, with Kerrang! Magazine voting it 35 in their 100 greatest albums of all time list. There's no doubt that the enduring appeal of Deep Purple's creative zenith will continue to inspire and thrill rock fans for many years to come.